My name's Dr. Hanabeth Luke, and I'm going to be speaking with you about the Stockholm resilience principles and how they can be applied on farms. Thinking resilience requires understanding how our social and our environmental ecological systems interact. And that can be anywhere from a global scale down to what's happening in our very soils. We're in a critical time for our planet. There are 9 planetary boundaries that have been now quantified in different ways across our planet. And these have been the efforts of scientists around the world. And one of the latest publications is from Richardson's team. It was published last year. And as you can see from this, we are outside of the safe operating space in 6 of those 9 boundaries. And so we've stepped into that zone of uncertainty in terms of, as you can see, our loss of biodiversity, things like the novel entities and pollutants, the cycles, the biogeochemical cycling of our environment, the impact on our freshwater availability and quality, and also in terms of the carbon dioxide and methane and greenhouse gases in our atmosphere. And much of this is down to the way that land is managed. As you can see here, the number of boundaries transgressed across the world, and this is actually 2015 data, shows you a bit of a pattern. And, it's not something that's occurring evenly, but also there are different types of agricultural systems across the planet. So this is going to look very different in those different systems as well. So just to yeah, sorry to add this fella here, but the climate has always changed. And there's a lot of people saying that, yeah, look, this is something that's a part of natural cycles. But I think what's happening is there's a misunderstanding and almost a directed attempt to discredit science and an understanding of how some of our basic atmospheric systems work. And the basic thing being, if you've got warm water, you're going to have more evaporation. And as the ocean warms up, as the atmosphere warms up, the ocean's warming up more and absorbing all that extra heat. And that's creating more rainfall and in particular, more drastic, more heavy rainfall. And it's also creating, as we stir up that climate pot, we're stirring things faster and faster in it, like a big pot of soup. And we're seeing some of that soup slopping over the side as we stir that whole system faster and faster. So it's becoming less predictable. And that's why there's never been a more important time to think about resilience and how we can build our own and our farm system resilience in our country and around the world. So this is just a few pictures from my own photo album. And unfortunately, you probably find that a few of you people also might have your own similar pictures in your album. So that picture on the top left is just flying over south, sort of eastern inland Australia, and during the drought in the end of 2019, and you can see the land is literally splitting apart as we're losing that ground cover as things really dry out. In 2019, the fires, and that's actually an old shed on my family property that got heat retardant dropped on it and went pink. That's how close the fires came to our property. And there's obviously Sydney itself, enshrouded in smoke and all of the secondary health impacts there. And that's a view from our house, that fire that's coming at the bottom there. And then of course 2022, the big floods that I'm based here in Evans Head, so Woodburn went very much underwater, and then my own photos from Woodburn, and that has had some huge impacts on farmers across Australia and of course around the world. But they say that this east coast of Australia is potentially vulnerable to 2/3 of climate impacts in our country, and that's a cane farmer who was showing me how rotten the cane was in the centre after the flood sat on his property for 2 weeks. So we don't really understand what the impacts of this will be. And certainly in Western Australia, there's changing climate patterns, and we're seeing this across. When we're having shorter growing seasons, we're having seasonal rains that are coming in different times, and it's got really important implications. And understanding that's really important as things change. And just last year, we had so many different heat waves and things that are happening. So understanding what this socio-ecological resilience is absolutely crucial. Broadly, it's the capacity of a system, be it a landscape, farm, or city, to respond to impacts and changes, to adapt, and to be able to continue to function effectively, whatever that looks like. And the Stockholm Resilience Centre has created 7 very useful principles for building social ecological resilience, and I'll go through them with you now. The first is to maintain diversity. So maintaining, that's having, I guess, different people involved, but it's also about having different farming systems involved. It's in terms of having diversity can mean so many different things, but lots of different things effectively. And then managing your connectivity, understanding what your networks are, and what the relationships are between the different elements of your system, your socio-ecological system, and then understanding what your feedback loops might be, particularly some of the slower ones. And slow feedback loops might be anything from the slow buildup of pollutants in a system or in a freshwater environment that might lead to a sudden algal bloom, or it might or a fish kill, or it might be a farmer's mental health as well. So it's really important to get a sense of what are the different things that can create feedback and make things better or worse in your system. So foster complex adaptive systems thinking. That's about understanding the connections. That's what we're doing right here. So what are the connectivities in our system? And encourage learning, constant learning. And that's around monitoring and continually understanding what's happening in a system, but also building your own capacity to learn and understand what's happening, how it's working, and what the relationships are. Again, broadening participation, bringing more people into decision making about ecological systems. That's really, really key. And thinking about, well, what are the power relationships, and who is playing a role here? Polycentric governance. Look, this is about understanding what are the governance systems, what are the different organizations, agricultural, regional organizations that are working here, and how are they relating together? How are they, what are the governance systems? And do they have alignment? Do they have misalignment? Are there different organizations that have a similar role, which can be a good thing, but they might have slightly different priorities. And that in itself is a diversity. It's called redundancy. You've got different things with slightly different roles, but have similar qualities or attributes. And sometimes if one of those gets knocked out, then you've still got some of that functioning in your system. So maintaining diversity, coming back to the start, can mean anything from soil level biodiversity, fungal diversity, all the way through up to the systems of governance. In specifically in relation to farm system resilience, if you want to diversify your farming enterprises, that's a really key way. If you have different enterprises on a farm, there's going to be different impacts when you have different potentially unexpected weather impacts over time, different mixes, different diversity within a pasture mix. Also understanding the diversity within your soil, the diversity within the landscape, and how adjacent diverse systems, say natural environments that sit within or next to a property, might be providing supportive insect life, or potentially also encroaching weeds. So it's in itself is complex. So number 2, to manage your connectivity, build support and knowledge networks. Understand who else is in the industry trying to do similar things to you, and build your network, strengthen those, and understand where the good knowledge of a good quality, scientific, or whether it's from other farmers who are finding things that work, where's that coming from? One thing that I've found in a lot of the research that I've done, which has been with the Soil Cooperative Research Centre, the Soil CRC, has found that climate change is actually a major motivating factor for farmers who are wanting to improve their resilience of their farm, and those that are interested in doing regenerative agriculture. They're seeing that, look, we're having these more extreme weather events. How do we prepare for that? And that can be from everything from ground cover to diversity in their enterprises. And that in itself creates a feedback loop insofar as if people don't have that understanding of climate change as something that is being impacted by human activity, and it is a way that we are sending some of our natural systems out of control effectively, or making them go faster, then that's going to stop people also implementing and building resilience building practices like ground cover. Don't let your soil wash away when you have a heavy downpour. Not possible in every different location. And there's complexities within cropping and livestock systems and horticultural systems. But also and what that's going to look like, what resilience is going to look like, is going to be different in different systems. And that's moving on to, you've got your feedback loops, but also your complex adaptive system thinking. Every environment is going to be different. And one solution in one place to minimize your erosion is going to be different to a solution in another area. You might be wanting to have more agroforestry in your mix. You might be wanting to look at having more deeper roots or diversity within the soil, so that you can understand how that whole system is working better. You might be interested in understanding more about how the natural landscape around is intersecting with a farm production system. So that constant learning about best practice, it's something that's evolving. We've constantly got scientists working around the world trying to work and understand a lot of the really good work that's happening by farmers. And there's farmers who are doing things that don't yet have an evidence base, but they're very happy and it looks like it's working for them. So being open and encouraging that learning process, but also being, taking a step back and thinking, okay, well, what is the evidence here? Is this something that I want to invest in and take that risk and try out on my particular property? So encouraging that learning continually is really key, but also broadening participation. And we found in the Soil CRC survey results, because we've now surveyed nearly 3,000 farmers across Australia have responded to our work. And one of the things that's really popped out is that having a more a broader team making decisions on a farm means that you've got some more people in that team that have got better understanding of data. They have a stronger understanding of a whole range of different things. You've got people of different ages with different backgrounds, experience, knowledge. Some people might be trained in life, no formal qualifications, but a long history in farming. Others might be fresh out of university. And when you bring these ideas together, you have a stronger team, you have more diversity. And that's all, also, I guess, linking into your polycentric governance. And what we found in our work with the Soil CRC, which has it's 40 different organizations, if you include the CRC itself, and it's about knowledge flowing, keeping that knowledge flowing and building within those organizations and sharing that knowledge that we're continually building across grower groups, NRM organizations and government departments as well. So going around that circle, there's lots of ways that we can be building resilience, and there's growing evidence to suggest just how important and crucial that is. And here's some of the elements of resilience building practices that regenerative farmers have been talking about that are important to them. And we're really interested in just seeing how our knowledge of these and understanding grows over time. And these are some of the goals, and they also link into regenerative farming and what ways that resilience is attempting to be achieved. So look, what I've done here is just given you a bit of an insight into what is resilience, what might this look like on farms, and how does this relate to people? Because ultimately, a lot of stuff happens on farms, and we have environmental challenges, we have production challenges. At the end of the day, everything that's happening on the farm, more or less, a lot of it comes back to the decisions of the farmer or the farming team. And by working together better through understanding these principles, we have a better opportunity and chance to build resilience across Australian farming systems.